Hey everyone, it's Dan Favale. Remember to search Blue Wire Buckets in iTunes or Spotify for more NBA content.
Bleeding Purple Podcast.
Welcome to Minnesota! Woo!
Straight cash, homie. 48-4 jersey down.
Adrian Peterson is loose! Oh my heavens! Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Why do you even ponder passing? Let's go to work, huh? Let's go to work! How do you like that?
Welcome in, everybody! Welcome into Bleeding Purple, a podcast about the Minnesota Vikings. My name is Tyler Haag, and I'm joined, as always, by Mr. Adam Patrick. By the way, we're part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. I forgot to put that a second ago. Woo! But hey, Adam, how are you?
Doing good. Just trying to recover from this exciting Vikings rookie minicamp, and so much to talk about.
So get this. We didn't discuss bringing this up before, but I'm driving around doing my delivery job today. I listen to a lot of sports talk radio, Adam. A lot.
Yeah.
Paul Allen is on the radio today, talking about one Jake Browning, PA they call him.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about the rookie quarterback, undrafted rookie quarterback, and he was talking about him throwing a football into the wind and how it left something to be desired.
Oh.
And I had one of those, like, eye-opening moments where I was like, I'm getting frustrated about a take, about a rookie minicamp, about a rookie throwing a football into the wind.
Mm-hmm. For a team that plays indoors more than half their games.
And I was like, what have we become? Where
undrafted
are we at?
Rookie.
Undrafted rookie. You know, though, here's my argument with that, though, is he's won more games in the Pac-12 than any quarterback who's ever played for USC. Did you know that?
Yeah, but is that
stats are stats, Adam? Don't fight it.
Is that
He's
him
legendary.
or is that the team?
Well, he was on the team.
Because Tim Tebow won a lot of games. But
that's where you want to go. We're 5 minutes into the episode. You want to go with Tim Tebow. You want to argue about Tim Tebow? Is that where we're going to go at him?
Not really. I mean, he's a baseball player now, so there's not a whole lot to argue about.
He's going to be in the majors anyways. But
yeah,
I thought Tim Tebow
under 200, so he's doing good.
If Tim Tebow would have just gotten a chance, I think he could have been a very respectable franchise.
He's got more playoff wins than Kirk Cousins. So.
Oh God, that hurt. Oof, that's harsh.
Sorry, I had to say it.
Facts are facts. You can't fight them.
Yep. No.
Jake Browning has won more games than any USC quarterback, and
maybe Cousins will have, a playoff win or two after this year.
There you go. Okay, let's get to some headlines. Sorry, that was really distracting. That was tough for me to come back from. We should intro the show a little bit. In a couple minutes, we are going to have an interview. We are going to have Luke Inman from Zone Coverage is on the episode today. We have talked to him already. It's the magic of computers and editing, y'all. So, like, conversation. God, I can't even talk. Conversation has already taken place, you guys. Thanks to the magic of computers and editing. We will allow it to not open the episode. Jesus.
Yeah, we talked about some draft stuff. And it was good. It's good talking to him. He's got a lot of knowledge about the draft, so check that out.
Definitely. No, he was great. I actually couldn't contain myself after one of his answers. I just slammed my pen down and was like, God, that's a good answer. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it was really good. We enjoyed talking to him. I enjoyed talking to him a lot. I'm a big fan of his work. Let's talk about some news. Vikings news. First things first, our favorite dude, Laquan Treadwell. Shocking development here. The Vikings are not going to pick up his fifth-year option. We do this every time with these rookies. This does not mean he's not on the team right now. This means that 1 year from now, they are not going to have to... This happened last year, 2 years ago. Trey Waynes. This just happened, and people were confused. Don't be confused. Laquan Treadwell is totally on this football team still.
Unfortunately. Yeah, but yeah.
Unfortunately. But yes. So they're not picking up his fifth-year option. What can we say about Laquan Treadwell that has not been said already? We've talked about him at length.
You know what? He might not be on the team this year because...
I kept saying that, and every time I said it, I was like, that doesn't feel natural. We don't know that. maybe that's hopeful on my side, where I maybe don't want him to be on the team. I feel like maybe a Zylstra, BB, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like there are other guys who deserve those reps more.
Yep.
But
maybe it's not going to save him any money to cut him, really. But if it does, it's not even really worth it. So they probably will just keep him around at least through training camp. Because injuries and stuff happen, they might need him to stick around. But and Kubiak's there now, so maybe he can get something out of him, but probably not, because he can't catch, and that's a big part of a wide receiver's job.
It's a very important part. And I'm glad you phrased that the way you did, because I was going to be like, oh my God, now Kubiak is going to be the one that saves him. But no, you said maybe get something out of him. And those are practical expectations, Adam. That's what we do here.
I have been thinking, this has been like a funny theory that people have thrown out over the years about Treadwell. Would it be that bad of an idea to try and convert him into a tight end? Because we always hear about, he's a great blocker and he's on the field because of his blocking, and like he's already like a pretty thick dude. Mm-hmm. Put on maybe like a couple, like 10, 15 more pounds and get him in there as a blocker. Like,
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but it kind of sounds...
It's like a last resort. But.
Well, yeah, for sure. No, 100%. But that sounds to me, it's like, well, you're the biggest, roughest guy on our basketball team. So we're going to throw you in the octagon because you're definitely the toughest guy we got. And then he gets in there and he's like, oh, it turns out I wasn't really that tough at all. What if we get it? It's like, well, he's really good at blocking for a wide receiver. That's why he's on the field. And then you get him into tight end, body and pads into gear, and they're like, oh, it turns out he wasn't very good at blocking after all. He's just...
I think he actually didn't do as well blocking last year as he'd done in the past. So maybe that's not the greatest idea. But it's just one that's been like sarcastically thrown out there, and like the past couple of weeks I've been thinking like, maybe it's not that bad. It might not be the
worst thing ever. And honest to God, I think you hit on it perfectly with it's a last resort. What else are you going to do? What's he going to do? Suck at wide receiver? Mission accomplished. Like, so like move him. See where else he can go. Put him at safety, for God's sakes. Like, who cares? I'm thinking out loud here. I'm thinking out loud.
he might. There is a chance he might not be on the final 53-man roster. He could either, they could release him. They could even trade him. If a receiver around the league goes down and someone needs to trade for someone, the Vikings should trade him for anything if they can do that. But
you have to think that there's no way that they have said no, that's not enough. Right? No way. Right. There's no way, right?
Oh, like cash considerations?
Any offer at all? Yeah. Like if somebody offered you a 7th-round pick, you'd be like, we'll take it, man. Sounds great.
A free coupon for buy one, get one free, like sandwich?
Here's American Spirits. One pack for $5.
Yeah, I just...
Later, Laquan.
It's disappointing because he was a first-round pick. But now we know he probably shouldn't have been.
See, I don't even know if that's true, because I think he was so good before he got hurt in college, and then he got hurt and then had an okay year, and they were kind of like, well, he's still recovering. So I feel like he had the talent to be drafted there, but my God, what a miss.
Yeah, the problem...
Woof.
I think the big problem is that he just doesn't work on stuff that his coaches suggest to him. He just like nods his head and is like, oh yeah, I'll do that. But then he just keeps going back to like what he's used to. Like, I think Zimmer and other people have told him, like, hey, stop like running the stairs every day, or like stop hanging out with the jugs machine after every practice. And then, you still see him out there after practice doing that stuff. And it's like, no, you need to like work on other stuff that will actually help you. And so he's a you could call him a physical specimen, yes, but it doesn't really matter if you can't do your job in the NFL, which for him is catching, and he hasn't been able to do that. But if you ask him, he had a great year last year. So there's that too, which is the just delusional part of
my favorite. Well. No, here's the argument. A career high yards, touchdowns, plays, snaps. I mean, these are all career years. It was a better year for Laquan than it had been.
No plural on that.
Oh, man.
One touchdown in 3 years. Troy Williamson had more touchdowns.
That, to me, is the most telling.
His stats are worse than Troy Williamson.
That is it right there. That's the most telling statistic you need, is that Troy Williamson had a markedly better first 3 years than Laquan Treadwell. And remember how you felt about Troy Williamson? You should be spitting mad about Laquan Treadwell. Yeah, dude. Treadwell. Crazy.
Yeah, like I did an article a couple weeks ago on like the 15 biggest draft busts, and Treadwell was in there, and people were like, "Oh, you can't put him in there. He's still on the team. He still has a chance." And I'm like,
put him in there.
No, yes, you can put him in there. He's been horrible.
You literally could have put him in there after the 1 year. And like, I'm sorry if that is like seems short-sighted to people.
He had one catch, right?
If that even, yeah. I don't even know if he had a catch the first season.
I think he had one catch.
God.
So like when they had 2 catches the next year, people were like, "Oh, career high." So yeah, you know,
stats don't lie, bro. Stats don't.
What he also averaged under 9 yards a catch last year for a wide receiver, so that's pretty good. I think that's Kyle Rudolph had too. So
yeah, let's stop talking about tight ends, man.
Why? That's like our favorite segment.
It is. So, but you see, that was the Treadwell the tight end joke that I slipped in there.
Yeah.
Rookie minicamp, we talked about that a little bit. Nothing really newsworthy came out of it. Just the fact that they are doing it is kind of newsworthy. Obviously, Jake Browning can't throw into the wind as well as Paul Allen would like, but I think it's still early for them.
I think they signed somebody. They signed former Rutgers cornerback Isaiah Wharton. I think they had one more roster spot going into rookie minicamp, and I think he's either filling that spot or they're getting rid of somebody else to fill that. So another cornerback for the Vikings.
Got you.
Surprise.
Yeah, shocking.
I haven't seen anything that Diggs' brother made the team, so I don't think he's gonna be in training camp. You never know. He could be, but
that's a cool story, but yeah, tough.
His other brother might next year. His other brother's a top cornerback prospect.
Yeah, he's a stud.
2020.
Who does he play for?
Alabama.
Is he? Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Rookie minicamp, yawn. I'm very excited about this next topic. Rumor mill, J-Ron Curse to
Speaking
linebacker.
Of position switches, yeah.
Which if you like don't really know who J-Ron Curse is or what he looks like, you'd be like, that's the dumbest idea ever. But if you look at J-Ron Curse, he is a massive human being. Like that was, honest to God, the training camp attendance that I had, that was the only thing that like stuck with me was how shockingly big J-Ron Curse was.
Who's the basketball player on the field?
Yeah, totally. No, it's unbelievable. And then he's doing the positional group stuff. He's with all the corners and the safety. So he literally is 6 inches taller than everybody else around him. He's a massive dude. I don't hate this idea, but I have a really tough time imagining him being better at being a linebacker than he is at being a safety, because he was not horrible last year when he was playing. What do you make of this idea?
I think it's just a way to get him, more snaps on the field. It wouldn't be like taking snaps away from Anthony Barr or Eric Kendricks, but figuring out other packages to get him, Anthony Harris, and Harrison Smith all on the field at the same time. I think the Rams used Mark Barron in a similar way. He used to be like a safety for the Bucs, and then they pretty much converted him into a linebacker. But yeah, it would be interesting. I think when this came out, I think Chris Thomason was the one to report it. Citing a team source or whatever. J-Ron Curse kind of disputed it, and he was like, "Oh, who's your source?" So I'm not so sure if it's 100% something that's in the works, but it would be interesting for sure. I think Curse has a lot of potential next year, whether it's at safety or a linebacker, to have a breakout season, especially with Holton Hill being out the first 4 games. They're probably going to need him a little bit more the first quarter of the season to be out there, because he was in there on their nickel defense and stuff, and also with Mike Hughes, not knowing if he's going to be 100% beginning of the season. So I think J-Ron Curse has a lot of potential to break out next year, and he could earn himself a lot of money. I don't think he's going to take Anthony Harris's spot, but just being out there on the field in different packages and stuff, I think he's going to have a good year if he's able to stay healthy.
The idea is totally encouraging that they're looking at their players in a different way. Like, is there a way that we can get this type of speed and mobility, but this size to be on the field at the same time as our linebackers? It makes sense. The Rams come to mind when they are isolating coverages on an Anthony Barr with a wide receiver. Like, you put a curse in that position, and now you're not as vulnerable, or I should say less likely to be as vulnerable.
No, he's got the speed to stay with running backs and receivers, and then he's big enough to tackle tight ends and
so like stuff. That's really encouraging if they're looking at their players in that way and like having that idea. Obviously, we don't know if it's like actually going to work or not, but it's kind of
it's the off season.
Totally, it's hard for me to believe that would be something that they would do, but if that is a thought that they're having, then I guess I'm encouraged by it, all things considered. What else? Childress.
Fire.
Brad bleepin' Childress.
Yeah, he's back.
Is back in the black and blue division.
I'm gonna be the quality control coach for the Bears, and
that was my Brad Childress impression, I guess.
Wow.
Ugh, that was ugly. I apologize to everybody for making you listen to that. But Brad Childress is going to be involved with the Bears somehow. That feels like a win for us, doesn't it?
I think he's a senior citizen assistant coach. Like that.
See what you did there?
No, yeah, I don't mind him being back in the division because
he's a bleeping dinosaur.
Well, and like his only good years with the Vikings, you could argue that were with Favre out there. So I'm not so sure he had a whole lot to do with it. But yeah, he's had an interesting tenure after the Vikings. He was with the Chiefs. He spent a year with the Browns, being offensive coordinators for them. Then he was with the AAF last year. He's supposed to be like the Atlanta head coach,
though.
But then he left.
Yes, he never coached a game.
But apparently he looks really smart for leaving before the season even started, because that
hard to argue with that. What did he know that we didn't know?
Yeah, so he was like, I'm getting out of here. So he looks pretty smart. So it'll be interesting to see him in the division. I'm sure no one will write or talk or say anything about how when the Bears and Vikings are meeting about it being a storyline of Childress returning to Minnesota or something like that.
Absolutely.
Like
there will
be
no articles.
Like Simmer, like, what do you think about Childress returning to Minnesota? You think of it? I'll be like, nah, I don't really care.
I was in Cincinnati. It didn't bother me at all.
Yeah. So
don't know what to tell you.
Man. What would be the best memory of Brad Childress? Like,
ooh, that's
not even best.
No. What is the
memorable?
First memory? Yeah. What is the most memorable thing that happened in his tenure?
Probably trading Randy Moss. Releasing Randy Moss.
Yes, no, you're right, but that's not why.
Got him fired.
Yes, not why. Yeah, it's not that he released him. It was that he lied to the media about releasing him, lied to the owners about releasing him, and then just released the dude all on his own.
Yeah,
that might be the most memorable one. What are some other good ones? The Favre thing happened. He also has maybe the best quote ever is like, "We have a kick-ass offense," which was absolutely inaccurate at that point. Was one of my favorites.
Trying to turn Tavares Jackson into like a franchise quarterback. That was never going to happen.
No, that was the Ponder stretch too, wasn't it?
No, Frazier was Ponder.
Oh, yep, you're totally right. Yep. Yeah, man, that was because that was Favre. Yeah, you're totally right. And then that was the woof. Yeah, what else did he even do? And honestly, if you ask Favre would tell you that he was like the worst part. Nobody liked him and nobody listened to him. So like he was not even like the best part of those.
You could argue he got the most probably out of Adrian Peterson when he was there. Just being able as an all-around back, like because he was actually catching stuff out of the backfield when
that's true.
When Childress was there.
Do you think that is
Chester Taylor? He got something out of him. I think that was when Childress was there. So
that's a good point because Chester Taylor was a 1,000-yard rusher before they drafted Adrian Peterson.
The last one not named Adrian Peterson for the Vikings.
Do you think that Adrian Peterson at that point? Do you think I could have been his coach and gotten the same amount out of Adrian Peterson? Like, do you think that was a Brad Childress thing, or do you think that was just Adrian Peterson being like, "Well, I'm better at this than everybody," and if you give me a quarterback who puts the ball in my stomach, I'll just catch it.
He was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Probably 20% had to do with Brad Childress.
Was there any controversial was there a Love Boat type situation with Childress?
No, I don't think so.
Well, I guess the Favre pictures to who's her face, Jen Sturger would have been.
Pictures? What what picture?
Oh no, because he was in New York for that, so that came out there, but that wasn't.
It came out during. I think that came out during 2010, but that wasn't.
But
when
did not take place
Vikings.
during the Vikings.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you got? What are some of your favorite?
That's all I could think of. Just him releasing Randy Moss for no reason.
Trading for him in the first place, which was like the most desperate shit.
I didn't mind that, but at the same time, you gotta think in your mind like, why are the Patriots trying to trade Randy Moss? And it's like, oh, I'll take him.
I've said it 1,000 times. I'll say it one more time. If you were making a trade and the Patriots are like, sounds great, hang up and reassess what you're doing. Like, go back and look at what you're doing and think, why are they agreeing to this? Because we're not seeing something here.
Have they made a trade with the Patriots since then? I don't think they have. Because Matt Castle was on the Chiefs.
No, they definitely have, because they did the Cordero Patterson draft pick was a trade with the...
Yeah, but he traded with the Raiders. They traded with the Raiders.
Did they?
Draft pick.
Yeah, the pick itself was a trade with New England to get back into the first round so they could take Cordero Patterson.
Yep. You're right.
But I don't know if you might be right though. That I don't know if there have been any like
I'm good.
Yeah, we don't need that anymore. We've been burned by that too many times.
I'm gonna trade with the Jets or the Seahawks.
Yes, that's totally it. Try the Giants out. No, Giants, you're good. Okay, that sounds good. We're going to talk to the Browns. Nah, not the Browns anymore. Broncos, yes. All right, guys. We've got an announcement to make. Blue Wire is teaming up with Harry's to make sure our listeners are shaving comfortably. Go to harrys.com/bluewire to save $10 on a value trial set, which includes a 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. You get all of that for just $3 shipped right to your door. Enough with cheap razors. It's totally worth trying Harry's. Harry's is fixed shaving by combining a simple, clean design with quality and durable blades at a fair price. Harry's founders were tired of paying for razors that were overpriced and overdesigned. Harry's bought a world-class blade factory in Germany that's been making quality blades for just over 95 years. Join the 10 million people who have tried Harry's. Claim your trial offer by going to harrys.com/bluewire. All of Harry's blades come with a 100% quality guarantee. If you don't love your shave, let them know and they'll get you a full refund. Again, make sure you go to harrys.com/bluewire to redeem your razor for $3. We're going to talk to Luke Inman right now. Zone Coverage, right, is who you work for?
Yeah, you got it. Zone Coverage, yeah.
You're on the Twitter at Luke_Spinman.
You nailed it.
A wonderful follow there. I am a follower. Just saying. Just saying. Not saying. Just saying.
A lot of pressure. Hey, tone it down, guys. A lot of pressure here.
So you do a fair amount of research on the draft, I think it's safe to say. Let's talk a little bit about the Vikings draft and this recent draft that we, all watched, I guess. What to you was the biggest surprise, not just with the Vikings, but like in general? What is the biggest surprise to you in this draft?
I was looking at the teams with multiple draft picks, teams that could do a lot of damage with how just much currency they had. So we're talking about the Oakland Raiders first and foremost, the Houston Texans I kept my eye on quite a bit because not only were they sitting 5 spots behind the Vikes at 23, but they had 2 seconds, and I knew they were going to have to target offensive linemen, not 1 but 2. So I kept my tabs on them. And then teams like the Eagles and the Chiefs, they had 2 second-rounders, but all in all, just in general, I thought the majority of those teams kind of stunk it up with how much ammo they really had. None of them got some future assets for next year. You always want to set yourself up better terms next year. But, just starting with the Raiders, here's what I've been saying. I love every pick that they have. I hate where they drafted that guy. I love the name. I love the player, love the prospect. But all in all, the draft is more than just getting good guys. You got to get the best value, too. And I think that's why it's the same 5, 7, 8 teams that always seem to come out of the draft ahead and usually have good success throughout the season. But Clelin Ferrell probably could have got him at anywhere 8, 9, 10. You draft him at 4. We know how valuable, especially those top 5 picks are. We did hear Mike Mayock and Gruden say, we tried to move down, we tried to get value, but they couldn't. And at the end of the day, that was their guy. But even guys like Josh Jacobs, I think he's going to be great. You're taking a running back in round 1, always a little bit hesitant in that. And then Jonathan Abram, it sounds like, again, they loved this kid, kind of in the box safety. In fact, I even heard the Vikes really like this kid. Same with Amani Hooker. They were looking at some safeties. But, again, you're sitting there at the end of round 1. I just didn't see the value. So I thought they drafted a lot of good guys. But, again, from a value standpoint, didn't like it. I mentioned some other teams. Texans, I thought, was one of the worst drafts out there. Kind of forced a lot of picks. And, with that second rounder, Lonnie Johnson, cornerback, thought there was a lot of better cornerbacks out there at that point. The Chiefs, you got to keep in mind, the Chiefs traded for Frank Clark right before draft weekend, so that throws a little bit of a curveball in their grade, so you have to keep that in mind. But all in all, again, these teams, I thought, they had a lot of capital. They could have done some serious damage. I mean, you guys know, you have one great offseason. I mean, you can go from worst to first in this league. And I was looking at some of those teams, like I mentioned. I thought they could have done a lot of damage, and I was pretty underwhelmed with most of them. The other big thing that I noticed about the draft, we all were pinpointing and honing in on the offensive linemen. I thought Juwan Taylor would be long gone. I thought Cody Ford would be long gone. The first one doesn't even go until 11, you guys, to the Bengals. And then it's all of a sudden, and you kind of heard Spielman and Zimmer talking about once Lindstrom went, they were sweating a little bit. It sounds like Bradbury and Lindstrom were their 2 guys. They wanted pure interior guys. They didn't want to mess around with moving a guy like Andre Dillard from tackle to guard or moving a guy like Reef inside. So I was honing in on those offensive linemen. I couldn't believe, specifically Juwan Taylor fell and Cody Ford fell as far as they did. But those were the kind of interesting things that I took away from the draft.
No, that makes sense. That to me was a huge surprise, was the amount of offensive linemen that the Vikings had to choose from when they were picking. That was very, very surprising. I don't know. What do you real quick though, what about the Duke kid to the Giants though? Like, where are you at with that?
Here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. I mean, and we got to talk about it, but here's the thing. It's like, again, that was another team that had multiple first-round picks. I said, man, Giants sitting at 6 and 17, they can do some damage. Let's see what they do with it. And they reach on a quarterback, kid from Duke. Nobody saw it coming. There's always one big surprise early on. That was, if it wasn't Clelin Ferrell for you, that was the big surprise for sure at 6. But here's the thing. It's a reach. I don't love the kid as a prospect, like Haskins from Ohio State a lot more. But if that's your guy, I'm never going to knock a team on drafting a quarterback. That's the one position I'll give you a little bit of a free pass on, that, you know what, if we don't meet eye to eye, I don't have the same kind of prospect grade on Daniel Jones that you do, but you love him. Okay, I respect. Go take your guy, because you got to have a quarterback in this league. And if you don't have one, you got to keep trying to get one. You just can't. You can't be complacent. So they draft their Daniel Jones kid way too high, but again, kind of is what it is. Then they come back though, and they draft a nose tackle. And I love Dexter Lawrence, but to draft a nose tackle at 17, it was just a really weird first round. I think you saw some guys like the Dexter Lawrences that. And obviously the Daniel Jones that just kind of pushed a lot of names down, like Rashawn Gary, Packers. Love the Packers draft from a Viking standpoint. I thought they could have done a lot more damage, and they come out with some solid players, but a couple question marks too. There was names though like Rashawn Gary's, again Daniel Jones, Dexter Lawrence, that kind of pushed some other big names that we thought for sure would go in the first round that just didn't. Darnell Savage was the other Packers pick. As you know, Titus Howard, probably the worst pick in the first round, in my opinion. But a lot of those random guys that, again, we just didn't forecast or see going in the first round. That's what pushed a lot of other big names down, not in just the second round, but throughout the whole draft weekend.
Yep. Me and Tyler have been talking, like, before the draft even began, that this draft, it looked like there were maybe like a handful of guys that looked like maybe game-changing prospects, like maybe franchise-altering, and then the rest, the rest of the class was basically just like, guys that can help out, maybe have a solid career in the NFL, but nobody that really seems like they're gonna maybe be a future Hall of Famer. Is that kind of how you felt?
I mean, that's a good way of putting it, because that reminds me a lot of 2 years ago when once you got past like the top 7-8 names, and don't get me wrong, there are some clear-cut guys next in line, but it seemed like picks or players from like 15 to like 50 were all kind of the same guy. You know what I mean? From a value standpoint. And that's that's a good reminder, because again, I think that was 2 years ago when I really felt that way, that if you're sitting at 15, you might as well trade down and trade down and trade down, because you're going to get a similar type of graded player. And I mean, there's 32 teams, 32 front offices. Everybody's going to be thinking a little bit differently. And it only takes one team to fall in love with one guy. But for the most part, yeah, I'm with you. I thought that once you got past the quarterbacks, the blue chip kind of skill players, the Bosas, the Quinnen Williams, and then a couple of guys that I just love, like Haag. I love Hawkinson. Sucks he's in the division now for the next decade, but not too worried about the Lions. But we'll save that for another show. But I just thought that, after you got past maybe you could throw an Ed Oliver in the mix. It just seemed like the value. It was kind of, my cliche, what I always say, go get your guys. Who's your favorite for your system, and who's going to be the best for what you're trying to run. Value-wise, though, very similar. Yeah, I think you're right, Adam.
You keep talking about value, and like you said, it's not just the players that you're drafting, it's where you're drafting them. So like based on that, what is your like early assessment of who the Vikings took and where they took them, and like what do you make of the Vikings draft as a whole as far as the value of these players and where they took them?
For sure. Good question. I think at first glance, guys, it's easy to go, oh my God, you took a center. Like what? Why? What, a center at pick 18? But if you follow, boring. It's not sexy. It's not fun. It's not splashy. But that's a pick that, first of all, I will say, when I looked at these guys compared to last year's draft, so the Frank Ragnow's, the Billy Prices, I thought that Garrett Bradbury was the best coming out. Now, not everybody's going to agree with that, but from the tape that I saw, I thought Bradbury was the best of the bunch. So when you look at, Frank Ragnow went 20 and Billy Price went 21, you say, okay, that's about right. I mean, 5-7 years ago, centers did not go that high. But who was it? Travis Frederick was the first to do it from the Cowboys. They kind of set the blueprint, like, hey, it's okay to take stud interior linemen if they're actually going to be a stud. So, then there started to be a little bit more run on them, the interior linemen in the first round, that is. I thought 18 was just about right. I thought that, again, they could have got sniped at 17 or 16, and nobody probably would have batted an eye. I go, yeah, that's about right for Bradbury. That's about where he should go. I think that if you just watch the Vikings, though, the past 4 or 5 years, the way they've built the team around the defense, around Zimmer, hard-nosed, old school, they've never been the shootout kind of team. They're not going to be able to keep up with like the Pat Mahomes or Goffs in a shootout. That's not their style. This is Zimmer kind of saying teams are going to play our ball, and I think they were missing a huge piece of that. And obviously that kind of everything blew up in their face last year when they didn't have a Case Keenum running around and making magic outside of the pocket, going 13-3. They come back down to earth a little bit, and in this league, I think I've been saying it for a few drafts now. It's clear this league is thirsty. It's starving for good offensive line talent. There's just not a lot of them. And it goes back to high school kids, because you got all these 5-star recruits coming out. Hey, you want to go play D-end or 3-4 stand-up linebacker, get 24 tackles for loss and 3 forced fumbles? Of course you want to do that. That's fun. That's exciting. Nobody wants to go block those guys on the other side. So I think coming out of high school is really what's happened. I think you're starting to slowly see, like next year's draft, maybe we'll get into that a little bit at the end. I think there's another good class, another good crop of offensive linemen coming out. But the Vikings, plain and simple, man, they just didn't have the talent, period. I mean, you can't throw out guys that they had starting last year. I mean, and they were doing their best, but there's too much of a talent drop. And ultimately, Zim, This is the one knock I've really had on him over the last 2-3 years when we failed to make that next leap or kind of get over the hump, is that he's used all our assets, talking early draft picks, talking, free agent money, all this and that, on the defense. And it worked. I mean, yeah, you get what you pay for. It worked. But now I want to see the Mike Zimmer that came in and said, I can roll with undrafted free agents just as good. The Anthony Harrises, the Stephen Weatherlys, J-Ron Kerr, some late-round picks. That's what I want to see. I want you to prove to us that you can roll with what we give you on defense, and let's start pumping some of these assets back into the offense. That's what they did. 4 straight picks, all offense. You got 2 trench guys, but now you have talent to compete. And I think the other big thing, just to wrap this answer up, was that Bradbury's a plug and play day one guy, and that's a really cliche thing to say. But like most first rounders, you expect them to come in and play like not just play like a first rounder. I think Bradbury, everything. I mean, knock on wood, barring an injury, everything that you see though, this kid's ready to roll. And guys, call me a homer or whatever. It's a Super Bowl type of roster. If you just start looking at everybody's rosters right next to the Vikings, it's a Super Bowl roster, man. The defense has been ready. Now you got to get the offense up to par. I think you needed guys that could come in right away, though, and not take a year, take 2 years, because that window might be closed in 2-3 years. Defense is ready now. I think Bradbury, all in all, to answer your question, right about where he should have went at about 18. So I think the value's right on. And then again, you got a guy that should be the centerpiece of your offensive line for a long time. So all in all, I thought that was a great pick.
That's a great answer, dude. What?
Did you have a lot of people said that the Madison pick was maybe
everybody hates that Madison.
I like it a lot.
I love it because I love it. Give me your 30-second elevator pitch on Madison, and then I'll go. For me though, it goes back to that 13-3 season. What were we doing when we went 13-3? Running the ball, boring football. You remember that Ravens game at home when we ran it like 45 times? Boring, old school football. That's what we got to get back to. Didn't have that last year. And the other thing too, Dalvin Cook, he's a stud when he's healthy. Yeah. He's only played 15 of the 32 games. He doesn't even play half the game. So you're telling me it goes back to, again, not to kind of cut you off, Adam, but it's like this. It's like, dude, the roster is ready to win right now. And if you get to week 6 or week 10 or heading into the playoffs, and all of a sudden Dalvin Cook goes down and you don't have a workhorse, and you're heading into the playoffs, you just did all that, great season, and then you go into the playoffs with no type of Latavius Murray type of running back, you're screwed. Even last year, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a lot of rushing stats where the Vikes are not just middle of the pack, but like near dead last in some rushing categories. And I just think they knew that was a problem. They got some good beef guys up front to help block, but Madison, when you watch him, man, he's violent in between the tackles. And I really think they knew they needed a guy like that.
No, yeah, I like Madison because he's got the power to do what Murray did in short yardage situations, but at the same time he's also got like the versatility to come out of the backfield, and he's got like deceptive speed. Like it's not like 4.2 40 speed, right? But if he gets
more
by
like
you,
quick. Yeah, it's more like 50 quick versus like the long speed.
Yeah, he can get by you, but he can also run you over too.
For sure.
I like the pick a lot, and I think it's kind of sneaky that if Dalvin Cook doesn't end up working out, maybe Madison can kind of develop into that 3-down running back that, Mike Zimmer's been pretty much looking for since Adrian Peterson left. But you didn't have a problem. I don't have a problem with them picking in the 3rd round because me and Tyler talked before about how like certain teams are going to have different draft boards than everyone else. So if this was the Vikings guy, then I have no problem with them getting him where they got him.
And I'll just add on to that. Perfectly said. I think the fact that they got Drew Samia in the 4th kind of glues everything together, because I'll be honest, I like Madison as a player. They traded back 4 times before they took him. So I was like, oh, you took a 3rd-round running back? And by the way, nobody knew anything about Jerick McKinnon when we took him in the 3rd. Everybody still wants him back. So a little bit, and Rick we trust, that's their guy. But they traded back 4 times. A lot of people, national pundits, had Madison as like a 4th-round type of running back. We take him at the end of round 3, and people want to kind of gripe or bitch about, you didn't get good value, took a running back in the 3rd. Like, dude, again, you cannot go into a I'll put it in quotes, Super Bowl type of season and not have a number 2 running back that, again, you can lean on when and if Dalvin Cook goes out. The thing, too, is that I talked about Samia. I was bummed when we didn't get that second offensive lineman in the first 3 picks. I was really watching the board. Yeah. I was cool with Irv Smith. I love it. Kid's only 20 years old, breaking Alabama tight end records. That's going to be fun to have a move tight end. A.J. Brown went 1 next pick to Ole Miss receiver. I would have taken either of those guys. Love the value, but you take a running back next, I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. They needed 2. They didn't need 1. They needed 2 offensive linemen. And now I got worried because the Connor McGoverns were gone. Pretty much there was a big drop-off to the next tier of all linemen that you looked at any of them, you go, I don't feel great about this guy starting. There's no way. There was only one left, one name, and that was Drew Samia. Kind of, again, a versatile piece in Oklahoma's offensive line. You know the story, blocked for Kyler Murray, number 1 pick, Heisman, blocked for Baker Mayfield, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, 38 starts at guard, started as a freshman at Oklahoma, Big 12 offensive lineman. To get a guy like that, whether he's a perfect scheme fit or not, to get a guy like that in the 4th, he was the last kind of tier 2, I'll say, of O-lineman. If you didn't get him, it was going to be a long drop. And again, the fact that they used some of that ammo to trade back up, to get Samia, it really, when you think about it, it really makes the Madison pick look that much better because if they didn't get that second lineman, it'd be a lot easier to gripe about that Madison pick. Yeah. Yes, when you passed on the Connor McGoverns of Penn State, guys like that. So Samia kind of brought everything together.
Vikings fan never complained. So.
Oh God, no!
Especially not about hypothetical other scenarios like that. That could never be.
No. You got too much better stuff to do than that.
Yeah. I guess Luke, we'll get you out of here on this one. It's early, obviously, and I don't even know if we're calling it Mr. Mankato anymore. But super duper early prediction for whatever we're calling that award these days.
Super early prediction for that. So here's the thing. It's like betting on a defensive rookie of the year. It's like the trench guys may make the most impact, but who are the guys that going to make the splash plays that stand out? Yep. Usually the defensive backs or receivers, running back. Dylan Mitchell seems like an easy one for me the more I watch him. A lot of excitement around him. Led the Pac-12 in receiving, coming from Oregon. Played with the Ducks and Justin Herbert, who should be like a top 3, top 5 pick, but he's a joystick man. He's a playmaker, and whether you want to play him on the inside or want to play him on the outside, I think he is going to match up with whoever the Vikes want to put over him in practice and be able to get open, and that's what it's all about. You just want to be able to get open and make plays. So he's a kind of an early favorite, I would guess. The other kid I like is probably the guy who's going to be shadowing him, Chris Boyd from Texas. He's aggressive, and at the cornerback position, you guys agree, like, dude, that's the one position you got to play with that swag. You got to be confident. You got to be aggressive. And Boyd's got it. And it might take him a year or two before we see it. But all of his big qualms are like technique issue stuff that I just am so confident in Zimmer because he's proven to us that he knows how to do it. Again, stash him away maybe for a year or two, or maybe, who knows, maybe you see him as the 5th corner this year with Holton Hill out for 4 games and whatever else may happen between now and week 1. But I like both those guys, both at positions that, again, are going to be able to make some splash plays.
Who did you pick, Tyler? Did we pick these last week? Who did you pick?
I can't remember if we did. Let me check the notebook.
I remember who I picked. I picked Davion Davis, one of their undrafted free agents, because he had like 40 touchdowns in college. So
yeah, something wild like that. Yeah, that's a good one too, man. Yeah, that's
you
a good one.
You gotta go. I feel like wide receiver, you got a good chance because
you always got to fight,
especially if he's a white guy, because usually
right. Well,
Chad Beebe, Thielen, Zylstra.
Hey, I will say, I know, right? I will say this: 2 names. Actually, 3. You just said one of them. 3 names that I really love that nobody talks about that could be going into training camp, could really make some noise. Chad Beebe, I mean, somebody's got to win the 3rd wide receiver spot. And if you listen to press conferences when they played him, they love him. He's like uncoverable. I know he's going against the threes, guys, but like, hey,
very good route runner.
Better than not, destroying the threes. I mean, doing everything that he can. Chad Beebe, possible number 3, wide receiver 3, keep it in mind. A lot has been made about Gary Kubiak and, like, you got to have athletic linemen. How about Avante Collins? Nobody talks about him anymore. Yeah. Great backup, still super young, and was already getting some good playing time in as offensive lineman number 6 in some jumbo packages with Pat Shurmur back in 2017 before he dislocated his elbow, I believe. So I like him because athletically he was great. He tested great at the combine. He was one of the fastest. And I know straight line speed doesn't mean everything, but he was one of the fastest 40 times timed at the combine for trench guys. So that's just a name that nobody talks about. And I'm a little bit more of a wild card, especially because there's so many names and bodies now on the third team at this position. But Hercules Matafa, just loved him coming out. I mean, a lot of those kids that played at Washington were studs. I really liked his potential coming out as an undrafted dude. It sounded like he was showing some stuff before he got hurt. But, again, it's just another name that I think has a lot of talent. It's what the Vikes do. They just grab these kind of higher upside guys and hope that they can develop them. That's the big thing. He's got a year under his belt already, so he's not starting in fresh like a lot of these rookies. Just another name to keep in mind in that front 7.
Yeah, dude, Hercules, he was my guy last year. I was really excited
I
about
liked him. Undrafted, man. Undrafted. It's wild.
All right. Thanks for coming on, Luke.
Hey, anytime, guys. Always a pleasure. Love the show. Get me on again here maybe before training camp or something like that.
Yeah, no
Definitely
problem. Check out
do that.
Luke on zone coverage and tweeting, his thing, doing his thing on Twitter. So check him out there.
Appreciate it, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Luke.
All right, later.
What else do we got here? Oh, speaking of Randy Moss, number 84. It feels like we're picking up steam. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit in retiring the number because new dude is going to wear the number. We did talk a little bit because it feels to me like they're kind of bestowing this number on guys. Even if it's just for a hot minute, like for BB when he came on, it's like, you're getting 84. And like, even if you don't mean that as like a big deal,
it is.
It is, yeah. And that to me is the reason why you should retire the number. If you're trying to make it like the Dallas Cowboys 88, it ain't happening, you gotta get, like, it's over.
Yeah. Well, I used to think that like retiring numbers was, necessary, but as this has been going on, I mean, I'm probably one of the biggest Randy Moss fans you can find. So obviously, I would love to see his number retired, but at the same time, I just kind of don't think that any number should really be retired except for, super significant ones, like Jackie Robinson in baseball and stuff like that. Or 20, you could even retire 23 in basketball for Jordan, LeBron. But there's so many players these days that they don't have enough numbers. Like the Vikings have only retired, I think there's 6 numbers that they've retired. Mm-hmm. They haven't retired Carl Eller's number. He's a Hall of Famer. They haven't retired John Randall's number. They keep giving that out. They haven't retired a bunch of guys' numbers. But I don't think it's the end of the world if Randy Moss doesn't get his number retired. He's in the Ring of Honor. He's in the Hall of Fame. Like,
do you like the idea of? I don't think
it's disrespectful to Randy Moss. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, and here's the thing: is I like the idea of, like, the Cowboys do it with the 88, where you have a number, you have a jersey. This happens in soccer a ton in Europe, where there's like, you get our number 10. You are our most important player. Everybody knows that this number on this team is the most important player because that's the number that we give him. They never retire numbers. They don't take numbers away, but you give the number 84 to your best wide receiver. But it can't be your best wide receiver every year. It has to be a wide receiver who's going to be really bleeping good. Like, not everybody should get 84. It should only be the best wide receiver.
Switch his number to 84.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. If that's the beginning of the trend, I'm cool with it.
He's 19. He's developed everything about 19 now.
Here's the other thing, Adam. Here's the other thing. New jerseys to sell. You're welcome, NFL and Vikings. You're welcome.
This is gonna be
created a new income stream for you.
Kobe's 24 now. That wasn't him. That was number 8.
Yeah, it'll be like that. No, but what do you think of that? Would you prefer that over retiring a number? Do you think like if all, or I shouldn't say all the teams, but do you think that is something that the Vikings should consider?
I like that better because, like I said, you only have a certain amount of numbers to choose from. I mean, there might even, because they have 90 players, there might even be some players that wear the same number during training camp or the preseason.
I think there are.
So, and then, you know, when they get down to 53, usually these guys have changed their numbers. So Irv Smith Jr., who's wearing 84 right now, he might not even be wearing that 84 when the season starts. He might get 82 when the Vikings cut Kyle Rudolph. So, you know.
Hey-oh. God, where's...
Because Chad Beebe had 84 last year, and then before the season, he changed it to 13 or, I don't know, 12
It's definitely a teen number for sure.
Yeah.
No, and I think, I think that's
and even Randy Moss had 18 before the season, in the preseason.
I know. I wish he would have stuck with 18. I mean, 84, right? I get it, whatever. But 18, that's my jam. Also, if anybody is listening and wants to like give me a present for no reason, a Moss 18 jersey.
Oh, wow.
That's what I want. That is like the last thing on my list that like I need. I'll be happy forever.
No one probably has that.
No, I bet they don't exist. I'll make one custom someday.
Randy Moss probably has it. That's it.
Yeah, I bet you're right, actually. I'll reach out to him later. Okay. But I think that we've also, it's kind of late, like we can't put the toothpaste back in the tube because like 93. There are a number of players that have worn 93 that might deserve that number to not be worn or whatever. If you're going to honor them in that way, totally is one of them. God, I can't think of any bad 93s right now. Shoot. Yeah, what did Floyd wear? I don't know. But no, like William, Randall, these numbers, there are a lot of guys that have worn these numbers. And didn't 28, Ahmad Rashad wore 28 before Adrian Peterson did. So, like, there's a lot of this that has happened.
Loka had it last year.
Yeah. And so, like, I don't mind that people are going to wear the number, but I think for a number like 84, for a jersey like 84, it would be smart for the Vikings to acknowledge that people are paying attention to who wears that number in purple. Because they are.
And they don't even have to retire it. They can just not let anyone wear it in the regular season. Like, we need it for the preseason. That's it. Other than that, no one can wear it.
And only take it out when you're giving it to like your best wide receiver ever.
And have like, I think it was Dwayne Haskins this week for the Redskins. He had to like call Joe Theismann and be like, "Can I wear number 7?" And then they talked, and Theismann was like, "Yes, you can wear it." So like, if that's gonna happen, you know, have someone call Randy Moss and be like, "Yo, Randy, can I please don't sound like that, but but call Randy Moss and be like, "Hey, can I wear 84?" And be like, "Sure, man."
God, I don't know why that got me. Hey, Randy, would it be cool? That got me.
Don't sound like that.
No, I agree with you though. I don't think it's necessary to retire it. Anything else? We got big topic. Do you want to do one big topic? You want to get into it? You want to do that? Let's do it. Adam, what's the one big topic for this week? It involves a certain quarterback, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's his second year with the Vikings, Mr. Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably his most important season of his NFL career.
I would not even say probably. I would say unequivocally is the most important. Because if he flounders this year, opinions of him will never change again.
Nope.
If he is successful this year, he will be able to continue on this path and doing his thing. But if he's bad this year, people aren't going to give him a starting job for his next job.
They will, but he's not going to get the amount of money he got from the Vikings. Because there's always going to be the Dolphins and the Bills and the Redskins.
Yes, you're totally right. You're totally right.
There are not 32 able quarterbacks, despite there being, billions of people in the world. Can't find 32 remarkable quarterbacks in the world.
You're totally right. That's I kind of jumped the gun there, but
because someone's always going to be like, "Oh, I can fix him."
Totally. The point is the same though. Is that
I can see him on the Raiders, being like John Gruden, being like, "Oh, I can fix him."
We will get the best out of Kirk Cousins, 100%. And that's the other thing too, is when a guy has been successful, even a tiny little bit like Kirk Cousins has been, because let's be real, it's only been a tiny bit. That allows you that hope, that optimism can turn you into a very, very rich man, and it can also give you a career for quite some time.
Yeah.
But what how do I to phrase this? What do you think Kirk Cousins needs to do to prove to not only the Vikings but the fans and everybody? What do you think he needs to do to be successful, I guess, this year, to have this go the way he wants to go in this such an important year?
There's a couple things. He's got to, prove that he's more than just like a fluffy stats guy, because he's got big stats, but if you look deeper into his stats, you're going to see a good portion of them come when the Vikings are pretty behind.
And we've discussed this
in the
length.
Fourth quarter on the last drive, and he racks those numbers up. But at the same time, he's been able to, put up numbers like against the Rams last year and against the Packers and stuff. So he is capable of doing that stuff too. But he's got to also prove to, in these bigger games under the lights, that he doesn't, succumb to the pressure, and he can lead a team. If that means him not passing as much, getting under 30 pass attempts a game or anything like that, because I think I looked it up. When he has 30 pass attempts or less in a game in his career since 2015, he's 15-3. So one would think that it's better for him to not be the center of the offense or like have it all on his shoulders, which I think is what John DeFilippo was trying to do last year. They're like, we got this big quarterback or big money quarterback. We should just center the whole offense around him. And that just wasn't a good idea, and it never was from the start. The Vikings didn't do that with Case Keenum because they knew that was never going to work out. And Kirk Cousins is better than Case Keenum, but not really by that much.
No, he's better, but not good enough to lead a team in that way. Yeah. And Kirk Cousins isn't even close to Case Keenum isn't even close.
Even guys like Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Drew Brees and stuff, when they pass for like more than 35 times a game or whatever, then their success rate goes down too as well. So it's just it's not a good formula to win. So I think 100%. The Vikings have to try and figure that out. Obviously, Mike Zimmer wants to run the ball more next year, and I think he's got the right guys in there with Kubiak and stuff, and Stefanski, to make it more of a run-based offense, take the pressure off of Kirk Cousins. They added Irv Smith, they added Alexander Madison, some more weapons and more pieces to the offensive line to maybe give Cousins some time. But yeah, he's got to prove that he's more than the fluffy stats guy. He can win games against at night. Like the Vikings have 5 primetime. The Vikings have 5 primetime games next year. It's important. That's a third of their season.
It is, and it's so simple the way you put it, because you could be on national television, nationally televised games in prime time, and at night. Just win when the sun isn't up, and you're fine. That's all it is.
Even if
it's nighttime.
2 out of those 5, I think that's still a good, moving in the right direction.
A huge win for him.
He's never won on Monday night. He's never won on Monday night football. And
those are the games he needs to win.
Yeah.
If not for his career long term, just for this fan base to back this dude a little bit more. One win in a primetime game, and fans will be thinking he's the greatest thing ever.
What do you think about this comparison? I wrote about this a couple of days ago about how it's his most important season, but I compared. I said Kirk Cousins is the settle down before I say this. Kirk Cousins is the Jeff Fisher of quarterbacks.
Whoa!
Because he does enough. He does enough to get you to 7, 8, or 9 wins, but he just can't get over that hump in his career. And Jeff Fisher, what's he known for? He's Mr. 7 and 9. So right now, that's not to say that he can't become something better in his career. He can't go into the playoffs and have success like that. But right now, I don't think that's much of a debate or much of a crazy comparison to have.
It's hard to argue, which makes it a really good. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to hard to argue. I'm gonna give it. Can you just say the whole hot take so I can do a sound effect real quick?
Okay. Kirk Cousins is the Jeff Fisher of quarterbacks.
I felt good.
Oh wow!
Could you even hear it? It was an explosion. It was a weak explosion.
I feel like you need the air horn.
I know, hot take. Well, I was going to do that, and then I was going to...
Oh, wow. Oh, what is that? Oh.
That one feels really good, too. Maybe smoke alarm? No, that one's horrible. That one makes me feel like I'm going to get arrested.
This is getting out of control.
Best podcast ever. Sound effects. All right, I'll work on the sound effects later. But that is kind of a hot take. Kind of, though, because it's pretty accurate and it's hard to argue against because he has been, both Kirk Cousins and Jeff Fisher, they have all been, like, frustratingly mediocre. You know, it's been, like, a problem for them throughout their career, you know? And, yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think this is a very important year for Kirk Cousins, and I think that he has been, I don't want to say lucky, but I think he's benefited from soft stats, and I think he's benefited from a really good year with a couple of really, really, really good coaches on that staff for him that year. I mean, it's definitely something to talk about.
Yeah, I think that he doesn't really have his excuses for 2019 are definitely very low because it seems like the Vikings are doing pretty much everything they can to make his life easier. You know, they brought in their first 4 picks were all on offense in the draft. They brought in Gary Kubiak and who runs a system that Kirk is familiar with. You know, working with Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan and stuff. Yep. You know, they all run a similar system, so he knows that. You know, they want to run the ball more, take pressure off him. They brought in more offensive linemen to, you know, make his life easier. So they're doing all of these things to make him successful or point him in the right direction. And it's really just up to him now to be able to take those things and turn them into success. He does have the ability to do that, but he really has no excuses not to this year. And if he doesn't, then I really wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings look at using an early round draft pick on a quarterback next year.
100%. There's no reason, if you are the Vikings, there's no reason after this year for you to hope that he's going to be something different than what you see after this. This is the year. If he makes it, great. If not, it's decided. Because there is like you nailed it. There's no other excuse that can be made. We're giving you all of the tools that we can give you, and if you can't be successful this way, then we have to find somebody else who could be successful.
Yeah, I mean, we all want him to be successful. I don't think anyone's rooting against him. I mean, there might be
definitely are some people, but yeah. But nobody listening to this podcast right now who's rooting against Kirk Cousins, probably.
I don't know about that either. Every time you type the word out, Kirk Cousins, there's always got to be someone in the comments just like, he sucks.
It's terrible.
Okay, dude.
Guy doesn't even grill meat. That's my favorite thing that they do.
Right.
That
he cooks elephants, right? Yeah. Can't even take the garbage
those steaks look weird. This guy sucks. Your argument is his steaks look weird.
Why are you recording your kid going on the stairs? You should be training.
That was a real thing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
People are so great.
Those are the best fans.
Love it.
Those are the diehards. Those are why people play the games, for those people.
For those guys, so that those guys
shut them up.
Yep, so that those guys can be happy.
I think he was like the commencement speaker at Michigan State this past week.
That makes sense.
I can think of a more perfect guy for a commencement speech, because commencement speakers, if I remember mine, are like the most boring
and talk forever.
Part of like the graduation ceremony or whatever. It's just like, he's perfect for that. A lot of people probably got a nice good nap in.
Let me tell you about my Microsoft Excel worksheet about my day. No, you don't want to hear about that? Let me tell you about all these rocks that I have in a big thing by my house that I take one night. It's like, Jesus. Whew. So, by the way, I play football.
Does Kirk Cousins, for next year to be deemed a success, do they have to make the playoffs, right?
I think so. I think if...
And win a game?
I don't even think they need to win a game. I think that he's considered successful if he has a good year statistically and they make the playoffs, because that's hard to argue against.
I don't even mind if his stats aren't that great. Like
I wouldn't either. Don't get me wrong.
Throws I think 20 touchdowns.
Honest to God, I think the lower his touchdown and yardage totals are, I think the more games they win, because that means that he's not being forced to carry the offense and is not being forced to put up large stats. And they're running the ball because they're winning or in the lead, is what I should say. But, I don't know. To be successful, I think that he definitely, has to make the playoffs. I think they don't make the playoffs, it's over, no matter how well he plays.
Is it over
for him and the Vikings? I think that
certain leadership.
I don't know if
probably just it depends. Depends how it goes.
How ugly it was. Yeah, if they barely missed the playoffs and everybody played okay, but there were a lot of injuries, then probably everybody keeps their jobs and Kirk Cousins is competing with the rookie next year.
Yeah, I don't even know if he would compete. I think them maybe drafting someone and sitting him for a year would even be a better idea, because they pretty much have to keep Kirk Cousins until 2021.
Yeah, dude.
Because they have to pay him.
I wish they would have traded a second-round pick for that one guy.
Yeah, I know. I wish they would have traded him. Could have got an offensive lineman for him.
Totally. Yeah. Would have been better than the guys they got now. But yeah, I think successful has to be playoffs. I don't even know if the statistics matter all that much, because you're right in that he needs his stats to not be fluffy, and I like the way you put that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that his success will be... Well, last year's a great example. He threw for over 4,000 yards, and everyone was like, who cares?
But he just has to be more efficient, because he threw for that much because he was throwing a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, he had over 600 pass attempts.
But that, I think, is my point, is that it's not going to be a statistically based argument. Like, it doesn't matter how many yards he throws for if they don't make the playoffs. He could throw for 8,000, they still will...
I don't think he's going to throw as much as he did last year. Mike Zimmer if he starts doing that again, Mike Zimmer is going to put his foot down and be like, "This is not happening again."
I pray to God they don't throw the ball as much as they threw it last year.
They can't. Who even does? Like, who throws that much besides maybe like the Steelers?
Yeah, it's terrible.
But I was looking, like, Russell Wilson had like 130 something less pass attempts last year, and he had 4 more touchdowns than Kirk Cousins.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he was more efficient.
Exactly.
That's
and then and last year was a great example of stats being inflated, because how many of those games were they totally out of? But he wound up throwing for over 300 yards, over 400 yards.
He was the Kyle Rudolph of quarterbacks.
No, dude, you know what it is? It's Kevin Love, a former Minnesota player. That was the same thing Kevin Love, he'd finish every night with 20 points and 30 rebounds. Yeah, but then you would like look at how he was getting them, and it was all when they were down by 30 points.
Is Wiggins like that
quarter. Too? No, Wiggins just sucks. I want to like Wiggins, but he just isn't good. He's inefficient. Max player. Inefficient. Only takes mid-range jump shots. Is like literally this past season was the worst season by anybody who's like shot the ball over 1,000 times in a year. Like, it's the worst season anyone's ever had.
Not like everyone's shooting awesome in the NBA these days.
No, totally.
Everyone's setting records shooting from half court.
No big deal. No, that's exactly right. And also the mid-range jumpers dying. People are only doing layups and threes, and you're a max player, and your whole thing is mid-range jumper. That's awesome. I'm so psyched that we have you on our basketball team for the next 5 years. Awesome. Yeah, he's really frustrating. Honestly, Andrew Wiggins might be the most frustrating player I've ever watched. Cousins
of the NBA.
I think that's not an insult, but I don't think that's fair to Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins has been so much more productive than Andrew Wiggins has been. Don't even get me started. This turned into a Timberwolves podcast all of a sudden. Do you have... I got a couple of different sound effects that I'd like to use still, but being that we're kind of running out of time, running out of hot takes, this might have to be it.
Good.
Shout out to Luke Inman.
Yeah. Thanks
from Zone Coverage for hanging out with us.
Thanks for coming on. That was fun.
Thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah, subscribe. Give us a rating. If it was a good or bad rating, give us a rating. Just
looking for ratings, y'all.
So we can, we gotta figure out what we can do better, or just leave us like a dumb comment or something and tell us you hate us. Just give us 5 stars as long as you do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, give 5 stars, and then the real critique
Just say whatever you want.
Yep, that's
whatever
fine.
you want.
All 5-star ratings. So.
You're worse than Chris Thomason, whatever you gotta say. So.
However you want to word it, it's fine.
Yeah. No, I got nothing. We're good.
All right, buddy. Good talk. Skull Vikes.
Yeah.
I will see you probably 1 week from here.
Usually how it goes.
I gotta figure out I look like I'm all right. Skull Vikes.